Okay, here it is. Round two of the Loud House review, and we're gonna go through all of season two, which is you know pretty long. Um, and I'm just gonna give my thoughts on pretty much each episode. I watched all of season two in about 3 days, so this should be pretty fresh on my mind. But if I don't have something to say about every episode, um, that's fine too. So, 11 Louds of Leaping is like the best episode of the show, right? Like so far, at least. I think 11 Louds of Leaping is a fantastic episode. And you know what, I love Christmas, right? I'm a big sucker for Christmas shit. I like to watch Christmas movies and get in the spirit. And you know what, it's only October, so maybe it's not the most appropriate time, but I really did enjoy this episode. Basically, um I mean, you've got like a lot of plots going here because it's a double episode. So they had like A plots and B plots. But the main idea of it is that Mr. Grouse, the Loud's neighbor, he's kind of he's like a bit of a I mean, just throughout the whole show, he's a bit of an annoyance, you know. So Lincoln, his like sled goes into Mr. Grouse's yard, and he wants to get it back, but Mr. Grouse is like, "My yard, my property," um, and then they do this whole thing trying to get it back, and then and during the course, like Lincoln kind of realizes, hold on, Mr. Grouse is like lonely on Christmas. He can't he doesn't have, I think he was like he wasn't able to get a bus ticket to go like be with his family. So that like it's this really sweet part where they all like carol outside his house, and they actually buy him a bus ticket to go see his family the next day, and they spend the night over, and it's just really sweet. They have this like Christmas miracle moment. And and I really loved that. So 11 Louds of Leaping, it's the episode to beat because oh my gosh, it was just really sweet, you know? Hit me in my feels, and I really enjoyed it. In turn for the worse, um this is just this episode's not like that bad, but it's just gross. Basically, Lincoln and Clyde, they work at like Flip's like gas station thing, and they're competing for manager because a manager gets to they get unlimited refills on their drink, right? But what they find out is that like Flips, the Flippy guy who runs the store, he actually like he does all this gross stuff. He like puts his feet in the cheese, and and he like drinks milk, and if it's expired he'll put it back on the shelf. It's like really gross stuff, but like I guess the episode's not that bad. It was kind of funny to see Flip get the sort of comeuppance, because at the end of the episode he ends up like basically waitering for Lincoln and Clyde, and I thought it was kind of funny to see him like um because the whole episode he's making them do like increasingly worse things so that they can get the sort of higher manager title. So it was kind of fun to see them get their revenge in that aspect. The only thing is a bit weird is that like he still runs that shop. He's probably doing it the same way. So I mean, just next time you see anyone go to that shop in the show, you're gonna think about like it's kind of nasty, you know. The Old and the Restless. This is a really if you ask me, this is a really good episode. It's really sweet. Uncle, nope, Pop, Lincoln's granddad. He goes to visit, and he's in this like senior home, and there's this like abusive caretaker. I think her name was Sue, and when I say abusive, I mean she's like not letting him do like anything Like, even the most mild stuff, like, um, I can't remember off the top of my head the examples. I know he wasn't allowed to jump into the swimming pool, which I mean, it could be reasonable, but my point being, like, he just wasn't having any fun there. And like he was, they make a good point in the episode to say like he was capable of more than she was letting him do. Um, so Lincoln takes him out. They have some fun. He goes a bit crazy, and he gets kicked out of the senior center because he wasn't there by the curfew. But he didn't get kicked out because they had this like moment where all the old people were like, "Well, if you kick him out, we'll leave as well," and then he got to stay. Which, like, I don't know if that's even a good thing because he's still gonna be with Sue, but maybe she'll learn to sort of lighten up. Baby steps. This episode is adorable. Clyde overhears some conversations and he sees some like milk bottles and stuff, and he thinks that his dads are preparing for a new a new child, a baby. And so Clyde spends the whole episode with Lincoln trying to learn how to become like a good older brother. And it's just a really cute episode. It turned out they were actually just getting a cat, which kind of disappointing because do you know how cute it would be if he had like a little brother or a little sister? So that would be so adorable. But maybe in another season we can see that from Clyde. But I thought this was a really cute episode. Brawl in the Family, famously just one of the worst episodes of the Loud House. I don't even want to talk about it in that much detail. They just get mean. It's one of those the Loud House episodes where everyone's just so mean to each other. They're all like screaming and fighting and stuff. It's not a very nice episode. It's just it's I don't like it. They kind of like, I don't know. And anyway, um, oh yeah, no. Now I remember the reason that Brawl in the Family, the problem that I had with it, was that they kind of like single Lincoln out as being the source of all of their problems. Like, oh, if Lincoln wasn't here, we would have figured this whole like out so quickly. I kind of forgotten there because like it was a bad episode. I guess I just didn't think about it much. But yeah, they kind of singled Lincoln out. And it's not just like they singled him out, but they were wrong to do so because they actually did make up after Lincoln had gone away for a bit. So it's kind of like the show, I don't know, the show had made it correct for them to single Lincoln out, but that's also just really mean on the like writer's part. I don't know. Sweet and Sour. This was kind of a sweet episode. I thought it was okay. They went to a sort of resort thing, and the parents just wanted some like time to themselves. But the kids were making mischief. They ended up getting kicked out. The kids thought it was because of their mischief, so they did this whole thing where they set up like a resort suite in their own home, so their parents could enjoy it. And I thought that was really nice. It was kind of funny. The actual reason that that the parents got they got kicked out is because the parents, Rita and Lynn, they had skinny dipped. They had snuck into a pool and skinny dipped at the resort. So I thought it was kind of funny. I thought it was kind of sweet. It's a fun episode. Back in Black. This, honestly, I thought it was kind of a good episode. Lucy gets a crush on I think it was Lincoln's friend's little brother. I don't remember. Rocky, right? So Rusty's brother Rocky. So we have Lucy here has a crush on Rocky, the little one, and then she tries to dress up all normal because he's like a normal guy, or like so she thinks, because he gets all freaked out whenever she tries to talk to him and stuff. Um, and then they do this whole like makeover thing, too preppy, too poofy, too princessy, and this is too perfect, right? So this is her new look for the episode. I like the dedication kept to not showing her eyes, regardless of hairstyle, you know. So then like they went to the golf thing, and Laurie was pretending to be bad at golf because they were trying to date, and it didn't really work because he didn't like her like that. And then we found out that he was actually making the fake blood like Lucy, and it turned out that all along he kind of did like Lucy, but just was kind of intimidated because she was so cool. So I thought that was kind of a good episode. I don't think anything really came of that. I don't think they are dating. At least in future episodes, I don't think we even see Rocky again in season 2. So, making the grade. This was kind of a weird episode. Lisa goes to 5th grade, and at first she starts doing really well, so everyone gets upset with her because she's like, oh, we should do more tests or homework or something like that. And then so that's kind of the point of that episode. And then if we look over here, she kind of becomes a bit wild, a bit crazy with it. She gives up on trying to be smart and cool, and starts trying to be cool. But here's the thing, like, if all she wanted to see here's, it's so like there are conflicting ideas going on, because if all she wanted to do was improve her like social standing at school, why did she have to give up all of the tutoring stuff she was doing at home? But you could say, oh well, she actually liked being average, which is true. Part of it is that she liked being average. But if she liked being average, then why did she go back to being smart when she could have just stayed average? So it really, it's weird, because if she wanted to be smart all along, she could have been average at school and been smart at home. But instead she was, it seems kind of strange to me. But I kind of like how the whole house falls apart when she's not tutoring everyone. Especially because you have like Lynn Loud Sr. He was like, oh, or maybe it was, no, it might have been Rita. One of them was like, oh, I missed Pop Up at the train station because Lisa didn't tell me like when it would arrive. And it's like that, I mean, that's basic algebra you're having her doing, you know. So it was kind of funny that like something so simple it is kind of like her responsibility within the house, because she's the smart one. Fantastic Voyage. This is a weird, I don't care for this episode. Basically, Lynn Sr. He buys a new van, and he takes so much care of it that no one's allowed to use it. So they go back to getting Vanzilla. It was kind of a boring episode. Patching things up. I kind of liked this episode. I thought it was really sweet how they kind of, you know, like made up at the end. I thought it was really sweet because they you know, what happens is Lana and Lola, they go do this sort of scouts thing, and it's not really Lola's thing, but then they start doing stuff that Lola's actually good at, and Lana's like, well, whatever. And then they do mystery challenges that are each suited to what they're good at, and because they thought that each other would get the same challenge, they actually intentionally gave up on the challenge, and they bonded over that. So I thought that was a really cute episode. And of course, throughout the whole episode, you have this gag of Lincoln and Clyde trying to get the cookies, and they weren't able to. So that was kind of funny as well. Um, when Lincoln and Clyde suspect that Bobby is cheating on Laurie, they conduct an investigation on him. This episode was so boring. Like, it was literally just a bunch of characters following Bobby around and watching him talk to different people, and dance with people, and honestly, like, the whole time he's not going to be cheating. They wouldn't do a plot like that where Bobby was actually cheating and Laurie was heartbroken. They just would never do that, right? So you're kind of thinking, like, yeah, no, there's going to be a reasonable explanation for all of these things, so why am I even watching it? Lock and Loud. I don't have any thoughts on this episode. It was fine. The whole picture. This was it's kind of a it was like it's like it's kind of a what's the word, like it's not an unrealistic scenario. You're looking at your family photos. You're having the time of your life on this horse here. You accidentally delete them somehow, and he misses those photos because he doesn't remember his early childhood that well, because how could you? You were like a baby. So he tries to recreate them with Clyde, and it's not the same. And then he just literally, he can't even remember some of this stuff. So he's just, and then it turns out that they weren't even taking any photos the whole time. There was no film in the camera. But then they share all these stories about Link at the end, and it was kind of sweet. I liked it. No such luck. This episode sucks. It is probably the worst episode of The Loud House that I've seen. In this episode, Lynn Jr., in a moment that I think is very in character, Lincoln comes to her baseball game, I believe, and she loses and thinks that he is a bad luck charm. This makes sense. Lynn Jr. is super superstitious, right? And I could see it for a few other characters as well. I could see Laurie, Lenny believing it, maybe. I could even see, I could see a couple characters believing this, but it just seems so unrealistic to me that, first of all, Lisa would believe it. Second of all, the fucking parents, like, the fact that they basically made Lincoln homeless because of this stupid superstition. This was just such a frustrating episode to watch, because as parents you should never behave like that. That's like, it's just a really bad episode. I hate these episodes where one character, usually Lincoln, is singled out by the entire family. It's just not fun to watch. Frog Wild. This episode's kind of interesting, because Lana and Lincoln go on a frog rescue mission because they were gonna dissect the frogs. And then they get the frogs and they realize they can't survive in the wild because they've probably been born in captivity. But that is such a minor detail that they just take they just keep the frogs anyway. I don't know. It's a fine episode. Kick the bucket list. This is a sort of ironic episode where Lincoln and Clyde want to spend so much time together doing all these things that they end up spending no time together, so they can each do so that they can basically do the entire list. They do it separately. So I don't know. Party down. Laurie throws a sophisticated party. Yeah, I mean, I don't have huge thoughts about that. Fed up. Yeah, so the plot of this episode is it goes by really fast because it has two parts where they sabotage the food and then they make the food. And the thing is, like, this kind of ties into to Lynn's sort of like cooking passion, but you know he basically like preparing food for what we've got 13 people in this family, preparing food for all those people every week. That's hard, so they have monotonous meals. They wanted pizza, and yeah, I like that there was this sort of reality check where the kids take a moment to like appreciate how hard their parents' jobs is, because they tried to make the food and they were not able to do it. Um, so maybe it's okay to have monotonous meals. But the end of the episode is kind of like, oh, pardon me, I just woke up a couple hours ago. The conclusion of the episode is basically Lynn Senior being like, well, you know, we can try and make it more interesting. You know, after all, he does have a passion for cooking, so you know. Okay, shell shock. Lincoln and Ronnie Ann have to deal with an egg at school, but Lincoln does not trust Ronnie Ann to take care of the fragile egg. This is an episode that, you know, this is an episode that it's kind of sweet, kind of sour. You have Ronnie Ann, who has bullied Lincoln in the past, but all she really wants to do is take care of this egg, and Lincoln doesn't trust her, which I can't really blame him for. Um, but then you have this nice resolution where it's like, you know, Lincoln admits that he failed, but it's not Ronnie Ann's fault, so she should get another chance. And then the teacher's like, well, that's kind of, you know, that's kind of the whole point of this exercise. Pulp Friction. Lincoln and Clyde make a comic to meet the creator, and they get in a little scuffle with their principal, who also wanted to do it. So they end up making this story where he was the villain, but he was actually like good all along, and he just had a tragic backstory. They meet the creator. It's a sweet episode, and it means that we have this sort of insight into the principal character, that he's not just like an evil dude. You know, he's living his own life. He has stuff going on, and one of those things is that he's an Ace Savvy fan because he was a lonely kid who read Ace Savvy. So that's pretty nice. Pets peeved. This was a interesting sort of experimental episode where there's not a lot of dialogue because the main characters of this episode are animals. I thought it was boring though. Potty mouth. This is really cute. They thought they had heard Lily say a bad word. I think it was "dang it," um, which like that's the worst word in the world if you're yeah, that's the worst word in the world if you're a baby. So they think they're a bad influence, and they try to be a better influence on Lily, and I think that's a really sweet thing for them to do. It turns out she was saying donut, um, but I think it was sweet. L is for love. This is the episode that confirms that Luna Loud is possibly bisexual, possibly a lesbian, whatever. Like, who cares about the label? The point is, Luna Loud has a crush on Sam, I think is the name, and Sam is a girl, and of course, because of this, it is banned in a lot of countries, which is just depressing that you literally just can't exist and be gay. Um, but I thought this was a really sweet episode. I thought it was sweet on all accounts, honestly, because you have all of these characters had crushes on people. They all end up talking to their crushes, and I think for the most part it goes well. All these boys have smiles on their face. And then Luna and Sam, I hope they get together. Honestly, like we have not seen Sam since then, but they need to date each other because that would be so adorable. Um but yeah, no, that was a great episode. Honestly, it was really fun to see. Everybody in the house has a love interest. You know, the loudest mission. relative chaos. This is another double episode. Basically, Bobby and Ronnie Ann move out. That's basically the gist of it. Ronnie Ann's not ready to move out, but she kind of accepts that it's for the better, and her family is really sweet. They set up a whole room for her where she can have her own space and that, and I thought that was a really sweet moment on their end, and you know, I liked this part where she's like talking to the camera like Lincoln does. I thought that was a really like I thought that was cute. And I know what I do know is that there is a show called um the Casa Grandes based on these characters. I have not seen that, and I guess it's not um part of the yeah, I guess it's not part of the Loud House wiki, so I don't know. I don't know much about it, but I know that this was kind of like a I don't know if this was a setup for a spin-off or if the Casa Grandes spin-off thing. I don't know if that happened later on, but you know, like continuity wise. Out of the picture. Yeah, Lincoln and Clyde, they Photoshop themselves into the yearbook. They don't have time to upload it, and instead Lincoln is an awesome older brother and he corrects Lola's bad picture instead. I thought that was a sweet resolution to that episode. Room with a feud, seeing as sisters squabble with their roommates. Lincoln suggests a roommate shuffle. Here's the thing. The roommate shuffle worked for everybody except Lincoln, who was with Lily. So why not put Lily and Lisa together, since they were already together, give Lincoln his other room, his old room, and then everyone else would still have their like ideal match within the household. Like, doesn't that make sense? Is there a reason that's not possible? Like, I don't know. It just felt so weird to me that the conclusion was, we'll go back to our old configuration because Lincoln's unhappy. When you could just swap Lincoln and Lisa and it would be pretty much perfect, right? Like, I don't know. Back out there. When Clyde thinks that Lincoln is hung up on Ronnie Ann, he and his friends try and cure his post-breakup blues. I thought the part at the end when Ronnie Ann like pied Lincoln in the face, I thought that was cute. I didn't much care because this episode is so focused on Lincoln's friends. Like it like I love Clyde obviously, but it's focused on these guys, and I'm not interested in them at all. Spell it out. I loved this episode, and I kind of wish that the spells were real. I'm glad they're not because it has such grave implications for like the lore of this world. If spells were really real and Lucy could actually do magic, I thought this episode was really fun to watch. Obviously, you have Lucy being upset that she's kind of talked over all the time and not acknowledged, perhaps as equally as some of the other sisters. And so she sort of gets her revenge by casting hexes on people. Of course, none of them are real, but she thinks they are because of certain coincidences. And yeah, I thought that was a good episode. Maybe you could argue the spells are real, you know, but like if you said something like, say they lost their voices, right? And she had wished for that in a spell. The real reason that they had lost their voice is because they had been they'd been at like a golf game or something. I don't remember, but they were like yelling and stuff. I don't so they had all lost their voices through yelling really loudly. Well, couldn't you argue that the reason they lost their voices doing that is because of her spell? I don't know. Fool's Paradise. I hate this episode. Why? Oh my god. Luann is one of my favorite characters. The April Fool's episodes are so frustrating to watch because Luann is normally funny. It's when she's being mean and hurting people that her pranks are not funny. And that's what April Fool's episodes are about. And I'm not behind that at all. These April Fool's episodes could be really fun if not for the fact that everyone's scared and nobody like enjoys it. If it could be like a mutually enjoyed thing between Luann and her family, like maybe do an April Fool's episode where Luann teams up with her family to prank their friends, right? And maybe the conflict of the episode is that they get upset with it. But at least in that case, it wouldn't be Luann torturing her family because it's just sad. It's not fun. Job Insecurity. This is a really good episode. Basically, the Loud kids, they find out that their dad, Lynn Sr, pardon me, isn't at his IT job, and he's washing dishes at a restaurant, and they try and get him a better job, but it turns out that Lynn Sr, he's actually pursuing his passion, which is cooking, and it's really sweet. And at the end of the episode, he gets to cook for the restaurant, and then all of his kids are doing the dishes, and it's just really sweet. I loved it a lot. Lynn's one of my favorite characters in the show, just because he's so sweet. He's so fun to watch. So this episode made me really happy. Arg, you for real? I hated this episode. It's not that it's like terrible. It's the fact that the conclusion of the episode is we will rekindle Clyde's love for Arg and for the paranormal by lying to him. It's like you're kind of just guilty of the exact thing that made him fall out of love with the show in the first place. And there was a really simple solution to this that maybe they didn't do it because they didn't like the implications that it would have for the Loud House lore. But I think Argue for Real should have made ghosts canon to the Loud House universe, because first of all, I know that would make Lucy very happy, but second of all, because it would mean that Lincoln didn't have to lie to Clyde to make him feel better. If there was actually a ghost that, because they even they said in the episode that like the guy on Arg, he actually did want to hunt ghosts for real, but to make it a TV show, sometimes they had to fake it so they could still get views and stuff. So why not make it so that off the show they actually find the ghost, because they're not constrained by time like a traditional like TV. Like, I just wish there was another way to resolve this episode, because lying to Clyde is certainly not the solution. Garage Band. It's fine. Laurie is playing with the idea of moving out. She's not ready for it yet. That's basically the whole thing there. Change of heart. Clyde is desperate to learn how to act normal around Laurie, so he enlists Lenny's help. This had all the potential to be a good episode, but there are a few flaws. First of all, the episode doesn't end with Clyde being able to act normal around Laurie. That sucks, because I want him to act normal around Laurie, because it's just frustrating to watch him bleed everywhere every time she's there, It's just not funny, it's not interesting, and it's really annoying. It's the worst part about Clyde, and and it's still happening. Like, the episode doesn't change that. But it's also weird because Laurie tries to, like, get Clyde back. Like, she wants this, like, 12, 11-year-old boy's, like, love and attention. That's weird. Like, what? Health Kicked is okay. I don't have much to say about it. Future Tense. When mom and dad meet an accomplished family, they worry that their kids aren't doing enough activities to ensure a successful future. I liked this episode because it was kind of like, oh, we should try and get them to do things that sort of future proof their futures, and then they realize, well, this isn't really making them happy, so maybe you shouldn't do this. But they never say that, like, oh, it's bad to do all of this extracurricular stuff, because the same family that is new, accomplished, that they meet, they also get to have fun. Like, they want to do it, and I think it's important, to sort of, they're just different lifestyles. The Loud family, they don't want to do all this extracurricular stuff and be all perfect, but it's not wrong for the people that do. Now, I could be wrong, but I think in this episode, maybe not. I don't know. Let's just move on. Linner takes all. Lynn is a poor sport, so they all team up to take her down, but it just makes her even worse. And then she learns to be better. It's okay. I don't care much for Lynn. I like Lynn, but I just don't think she has good episodes or anything. Um, Yes, man. The Loud Sisters need help from the Master of Persuasion, Lincoln. This episode was sweet, but it was goofy, like, it was sweet that they had set up this smooch concert for him at the end when he didn't get to go. But it was so goofy that Smooch, like, and maybe it's appropriate, but it was so goofy that Smooch actually turned up to it. However, I kind of like that they did, because they said their explanation for how they got Smooch to show up was that they got pretty good at persuading, which is what Lincoln had taught them the entire episode. Which means that they used the skills that Lincoln taught them to make that happen for him, which I thought was kind of sweet. It was kind of sweet. Lisa gets an F in social skills. This was kind of a good episode. Lisa gets a friend, and she realizes that it's not okay to just use somebody to get what you want, and they kind of end up staying friends at the end. No laughing matter. This was a really good episode, in my opinion. Luann realizes that her siblings hate her jokes and that they complain about them so much. So she gives up on jokes, and the others, I think describing it as "but the others feel bad about it" would be incorrect, because it's not just that they feel bad about it, it's that they've got used to living with Luann when she does make these jokes, and so when she doesn't, it kind of it just feels wrong, And like I said, Luann's one of my favorite characters. I think this is a really good episode, because they kind of all work together to get her sort of enthusiasm about comedy back. And I really liked the part at the end where she was cracking all these jokes to the audience, because it felt good to watch her succeed, basically. No spoilers. Knowing Lenny's history of spoiling surprises, the kids decide not to tell her about Mom's upcoming party. I thought this was pretty good. It's kind of like, oh, they can't do the party without her, but the party won't be a surprise if she's here. But I think that it's fine if it's not a surprise. Like, it's an okay episode, but it's one of these episodes where the family singles out one person. In this case, they learned their lesson, so I'm pretty okay with it. Legends. Lincoln and Lynn go on Legends of the Hidden Temple and cannot wait for a whole day of father and son bonding. I thought it was sweet. Honestly, that's all. I just thought it was a sweet episode. They kind of argue, they bicker, but they get over it. And I like that they are good enough. They have a good enough relationship that they actually are consistently trying to find things that they're both interested in. So, you know, Mall of Duty. This episode was okay. I don't have much to say. Read aloud. This is another one of the best episodes of the show. Basically, there's a reading challenge at the library, and the family who reads the most books, they get some sort of prize. They get pizza. Lola does not want to read, but everybody in the family needs to read at least one book for it to count. Lola doesn't want to, which is kind of unfair if you think about it. There's 13 people in their family. If there was like a family of 3, like the parents and a kid, they would have a much easier time, but whatever. I guess they would also have a more difficult time because it's also based on the number of books you read, and 13 people could read books. Like 13 people could read 100 books a lot faster than 3 people. So I guess there's an aspect of fairness to it. But Lola, she's like, no, I don't want to read books. And they try and get her to read this book. And she's like, no, I'm not doing it. Eventually she's like, I just don't even like pizza. And they're like, well, we know that's not true. And it turns out that what had happened here is she actually struggles to read. I don't know if she I don't know if she's like specifically dyslexic or anything. They didn't say anything like that in the episode. But the fact of the matter is that she had struggled being able to read. And honestly, I thought it was really sweet that Lincoln had the patience to read through a book with her to kind of help her confidence and help her enjoy reading, because it's really sad. It is really sad that she actually wants to enjoy books, but she struggles and she's embarrassed because of it. And it's just a great moment from Lincoln. Like I say, he's like the number one older brother, because he helps her through it. And I thought that was just so sweet. I'm a really big fan of that episode. Not allowed. This is ridiculous. So they set up this whole thing where they're like, oh my god, they want the audience to think Lincoln was some, like, not allowed, like not part of the Loud family. They wanted us to think that he had been adopted, that he was an alien. They're setting up all these, and then they create this ridiculous story that explains how all of these things can simultaneously be true. It turns out that he was actually delivered by the First Lady of the United States, and like just a bunch of other silly stuff. But I thought it was kind of funny in its insanity. Like, it's ridiculous, but I enjoyed it. Tricked. This was kind of a fun episode. It's a double episode. I didn't care for the musical number at the end, but basically, this is like Lucy's holiday. So to see her not be able to do the corn maze thing, it was kind of upset. These guys, they're big bullies, but yeah, they do this whole thing where they scare them, and it's really cool. I liked seeing all their Halloween costumes. You have like Lucy here, and then if we go up, these two, Lola and Lana, they had like 3 different Halloween costumes. They switched into their pepper and salt, which I thought was cute. Lisa had the kangaroo with Lily in the pouch. It was just cool to see all their outfits, their costumes for Halloween. And it was a pretty sweet episode. I liked it. Okay, we're almost at the end here. The Crying Dame. Children give Lily an old singing toy from the attic to help her stop crying, but it drives them crazy. I don't have much to say about that. I think it was sweet that that they basically became the fox. You know, they like dressed up and sang the song. Antisocial. The kids try to convince Dad of the wonders of modern technology after he declares war on their electronic devices. I mean, I thought it was a good episode. I like any episode that features Lynn Sr. Um, honestly, um, yeah, it was just fine. I don't have anything to say about these last few episodes. Snow Way Out. Honestly, like these episodes. Actually, Snow Way Down. I have stuff to say about this. Um, I thought it was a sweet episode. You know, you have Clyde and his parents are kind of overprotective, right? So, yeah, you have Clyde, his parents are overprotective, and Lincoln's like, "Ugh, your parents are overprotective." So Clyde kind of he starts going crazy. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to go up the big thing," but it turns out he didn't go up the big thing. And then they actually, in a rescue mission, end up going up the big thing. So it was really fun, but it was also sweet to see these two kind of let loose a little, and try to work on that, acknowledge that they had been overprotective, and like it's not like they're bad parents. Clyde's parents are obviously really caring and thoughtful. So yeah. um Overall, season 2 is much better than season 1. I like that we get to see more of the pardon me, I need a drink. Just give me a second. I like that we get to see more of the individual girls. Instead of them all acting as this like hive mind. If we go to season 1 real quick. To be fair, I'm not sure if I'd be able to. In fact, I will, because Heavy Metal is the 3rd episode. In this episode, all of the sisters, they kind of act as a single unit. They all have the same. They're all like have the same goal and opinion, and the whole episode, they're just like they're like a hive mind. They're and look, they're all like they're in this tornado and things and it's a bad episode. But yeah, in season 2 we get a lot less of that. We get a lot more of the sisters individually, and I can really appreciate that. I just wish they gave Lynn good episodes, because I like Lynn as a character, but No Such Luck and the other one, those were not good episodes. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Loud House season 2. I'll see you later.